3 of the lecture 1, we discuss about the introduction to pulp and paper industry, about the raw material requirement and other development, technological development which has taken place in case of the pulp and paper industry. Now we will be discussing in detail about the pulping processes, pulping and bleaching, and the actually the flow diagram of the what are the various type of the digesters we are using in case of the pulping. So, the coverage of the course will be introduction, pulping process, kraft, soda, sulphide process, mechanical pulping, bleaching, commonly used terms in the pulping, kraft pulping process, development in pulping and bleaching, pulping of the rice straw, wheat straw, grasses, problems in utilization of the agriculture. These are the some of the and bagasse pulping. So, already we have discussed about the importance of the paper industry, but at the same time as you know that we are using the huge amount of the raw material, employing different type of the pulping and bleaching process depending upon the type of the raw materials and requirement of the pulp furnace for final paper making. At the same time availability of the raw material, both unbleached and bleached pulp is produced to meet the requirement of the paper, because we are also making the unbleached paper which are using the file boards and other material, packaging material, the carry bags and all those things that we need, the wallpapers, brown paper which called it, all are the unbleached paper that we are using. So, requirement of the bleaching chemicals are also varying depending on the quality of the paper, brightness requirement and the environmental considerations for cleaner and the greener paper. Pulping and bleaching play important role in providing strength to the paper depending on the fiber length, cellulose content, because as I told you, the in case of the hardwood short fiber length is there, in case of the softwood the fiber length is higher, in case of the bamboo it is in between the hardwood and softwood. So, the quality of the raw material that play very important, at the same time requirement of the pulping and bleaching chemicals that will also depend upon the type of the pulping process that has to be used, where the mild pulping that is required or the severe pulping that will be required. So, depending upon the quality of the paper requirement, just like in case of the mechanical, slight some addition of the chemical sodium hydroxide that may be there. In case of the agro base only we are using the sodium hydroxide. In case of sulphide pulping we are using the sulphide, sodium sulphide and NaOH as the cooking chemical. So, these are the pulping process. Already we discussed about the what are the pulping process, what are the various stages involved. I will go very quickly about the acquisition of the raw material preparation, pulping. These are the some of the processes that we are using in case of the pulping and bleaching. Now come to the pulping process, other than the what we are having the because some of the mechanical pulping, especially in case of the newsprint, different type of the mechanical pulping that we are using. Sulphide pulping, washing and screening, these are the stages already I have discussed. So, I will not go in detail. And bleaching, advanced bleaching sequences, now it has been incorporated in the bleaching sequences just to have the higher strength of the paper and to reduce the consumption of the chlorine, or just to have the chlorine free paper. Oxygen delignification already we have discussed, because now we are also using the oxygen delignification along with the pulping. So, oxygen delignification offers many advantages over the conventional delignification process, and there is a steady growth in the worldwide in the production of the oxygen delignification. So, the kappa number and other thing, that is the improvement is there, and so the process are now capable of producing pulp with kappa number 30 to 50% lower than the conventional kraft cooking method. So, this is the advantage in case of the oxygen delignification. These are the some of the terms that we are using in case of the pulping: white liquor, cooking liquor, which is used for the cooking of the chips or other raw material, the cooking liquor. Also, white liquor, why we call it that? Because the green liquor we are producing from the recovery furnace, that is casticized, and the liquor which we are getting after the casticization of green liquor, that we call it the white liquor. So, white liquor is nothing but it is NaOH, Na2S and Na2CO3, which is the actually the cooking liquor which are using in case of the diester. So, black liquor is obtained after washing of the pulp, green liquor obtained after dissolving the smell from the furnace, in weak liquor from cast sizing sections. These are the some of the other terms that we are using for the, because of how to judge the whether the chips has been properly cooked or not, or what type of the pulp we are making. So, kappa number or the permanganate number, these are the two numbers we are using. In case of the permanganate number, number of the 0.1 N KMnO4 consumed by 1 gram of the moisture free pulp, and even by seeing the appearance of the pulp on if the people are experienced, they can judge what is the actually the kappa number or the K number of the pulp. Dilution factor, that term we are using in case of the washing of the pulp, because that is very important. We need the higher concentration of the black liquor, and so far there is a less water requirement should be there per ton of the paper. Bath ratio, wood to liquor ratio, or the bamboo to liquor ratio, or the star, that term we are using in case of the diester. Consistency means that is very common term we are using in case of the paper industry, that the bone dry pulp or the total pulp weight, weight of the pulp in 100 gram of the water. So, normally as I told you earlier also, we are using pulp of the various consistency 1 to 10% depending upon the type of the processes, but in many cases in the pulp and paper we are having the very lower consistency around 1% in the centric cleaning and the paper making. So, that is very important. The kappa number and another, that is the actually measurement for the degradation which is taking place, especially in case of the hypochlorite. Kappa number, it is just like your permanganate number. These are the some of the another term that we are using in case of the pulping liquor, that is the active alkali, effective alkali, total titrative alkali, and the sulfidity. Because normally we are in case of the crowd pulping, this term is very common, and sulfidity around 15 to 16%. If you are going for the higher sulfidity, more emission of the sulfur compounds will be there, and but at the same time quality of the paper. So, now we will have to optimize whether we should go for the higher sulfidity, or because now the people are talking about the sulfur free paper also. It was the chlorine, next time it may be this sulfur free. So, that the emission of the, because during the recovery or the when during the purpose, lot of the markup trend and other the odorous sulfur compounds are generated. These are the term that is being used in the recovery. So, we will be discussing while discussing about the recovery of the chemicals. Kraft pulping involves first stage is the chipping, second is the pulping, washing, screening, and then the finally bleaching of the pulp. Pulping involves separation of the fiber for the chemical or the mechanical pulping. So, that may be the fiber in case of the, because what we are doing in case of the mechanical pulping, there we do not use the in earlier, because now we are using the steam or the pre-steaming of the chips, or sometimes we are also adding some alkali, but the what is the actually the separation of the fiber from the chips, that is the taking place. A screening part, that is the removal of nuts, washing of the pulp for recovery of the chemicals, reject uncooked material, and had other foreign materials sometimes if it is there. So, that will be actually come in the paper, especially in case of the bleach paper. For the inferior quality of the paper, that may not create so problem, but in case of the bleach paper, at least if the fines are there, that is visible even by seeing the paper, you can judge the quality is not good. The cooking of the raw material is done in the batch diester, continuous diester, spherical batch diester, that is for the agro based raw material. Cooking liquor used in the kraft pulping, as I told you, the sodium sulphide, sodium hydroxide and sodium carbonate, that is the mixture that we are using for the cooking purposes. But sodium carbonate, that is inherently present in the green liquor and the custard liquor, and so but it is not participant. So, it is not part of the active alkali. Chipping that is very important, because if you are having the proper size of the chip, then the pulping will be better and the quality of the pulp produced, that will be better. So, the chipping is very important role in case of the quality, overall quality of the efficiency of debarking process, that is also very important in case of the getting the good chips. Barks if the present in the chips, so that will have the problem in case of the especially the bleach pulp. So, the chip size, thickness, uniformity of the size, removal of the dust, fines, that is the reason why the sometimes the in case of the wood and bamboo we are doing the also washing of the raw material. It is important for, because these are all will go along with the pulp, and you will have to go for this cleaning. So, that will play very in chipping of the bamboo and wood drum cheaper. Now, the new generation of the wood drum, high capacity drum cheaper, and the disc chipper that we are using. In case of the bagasse defeating, because removal of the pith, and that is not actually adding to the any property, that is not suitable for paper making, and so the we are removing by the dye or the wet defeating. In agriculture residue, size of the straw, sand removal of the dust also very important, especially the dust particle, because during the cutting of the straws lot of the dust is generated. So, that has to be, so we are using the having the cyclones where the dust particle they are separated, and after the final cleaning, that is going to the chips is going to the digester. Again the cooking cycle, that let us discuss slightly more in detail about the kraft pulping process. Cooking cycle may be around 3 to 5 hours depending upon the raw material, and extent of cooking in the batch diameter, because sometimes in case of the especially if the hardwood, as I told you earlier also, the requirement of the chemical, type of the fiber, type of fiber length, and the quality of the, because the way all the constituent that is changing in the case of the bamboo, hardwood and the softwood, and so when you are cooking the mixed species, so the requirement at time. So, that is why in the case of the especially the hardwood, sometimes we are preparing 2 stage cooking, means raise the pressure, keep for some time, and then again raise the pressure. Typical continuous also we are having the in continuous digester for pulping. It may be, as I told you, I will show the diagram of the batch and the continuous digester. It may be in the case of the, because all the steps of the cooking that is taking place in case of the up to the washing, that is taking place in the digester itself. So, upper heating zone, upper cooking zone, lower cooking zone, and the washing zone. Sequence of the operation in the digesters are chip filling, then the liquor charging, heating up and the pressure up period, cooking and blowing. Finally, after the cooking, the pulp is blown to the blow tank, and from where it is being processed, it is going to the nutters, it is going to washers, like that. And so, these are the some of the actually the operating condition that we are using in case of the some of the forest raw material. Bath ratio, because you see the bath ratio here, it is less in case of the agriculture residue, that is high. Cooking temperature high in case of the your normally the wood 170, and when the cooking pressure, that is 7 to 7.5, but in case of the agro based raw material, that is less than temperature, because as I told, in some of the cases we are having the 2 stage, so temperature to rise 135, temperature at 135 to 140. Some of the development which is taking place in case of the kraft pulping, that pre-impregnation of the chips with the lower caustic, means lower strength caustic or high sulfidity liquor, split addition of the alkali charge, as cooked progressive long milder, lower temperature during the cooking. Another development that has been the delignification using the oxygen, and so already I have discussed this, and the use of the additives like anthraquinone and polysulfide has been also implemented, and the improvement in the pulping that has been observed. These are the some of the problems we are facing in case of the utilization of the hardwood, that is the debarking, chippy problem, higher rejects, problem in washing due to more fines and foam, because as I told you, the fiber length is less in case of the hardwood in comparison to bamboo and the softwood, and so more fines are generated, and these fines result in the lower strength of the paper also, and at the same time they are present in the during the cleaning the waste water which you are getting. Bleaching of the mixed hardwood, again the varying bleach requirement, shade variation, some of the thing problem in the evaporator, higher percentage of the hardwood affects the runnability of the machine also. So, 100% hardwood we are not operating except eucalyptus, because eucalyptus is having the better quality and other hardwood species. These are the some of the development in the pulping. Already we have discussed about the bleaching of the pulps, that is normally the conventional method of bleaching, that was CHD, then they added the chlorine dioxide. Now we are talking about the oxygen also in between the pre bleaching or pre delignification oxygen, that has been also added, or OD, not the C, because the C is chlorine, oxygen, chlorine dioxide, and then all those extraction, all those things, because extraction that is the integral part with the caustic, the all the lignin compounds they are removed during the extraction stage, and so that is why the extraction stage is highly colored. Now the bleaching, these are the some of the development. Already we have discussed about the major development in the bleaching, because now we are talking about the chlorine free bleaching or the totally chlorine free bleaching. Driving force in the pulping and the bleaching technology has been to produce pulp and paper with the lower possible lignin content while preserving in the yield and the strength at the same time. Because during the chemical pulping especially and the bleaching, lot of the deterioration in the strength of the pulp is also there. So, how to retain, how to preserve the yield, because higher yield is always desirable. We cannot because whatever we are losing, that we are losing in the raw material. So, yield it is around 50% is okay, but if you are going getting, because some of the mills, because of the poor pulping and bleaching condition, or even in case of the chlorine hypochlorite, loss of the pulp yield is higher. Lowering the bleaching requirements has been instrumental in making it possible to find alternatives to traditional chlorine based bleaching, and that is why all the chlorine free or the chlorine dioxide oxygen delignification has come to the existence. This is the process, the kraft pulping process, bamboo, wood as the raw material, that is going to barker to the cheaper house. Before that, one stage in some of the mills they are having the washing of the raw material before it is going to the cheaper. After the chipping, it is going to the silo. From the silo, it is going to the digester, where cooking of the chips that is taking place, maintaining the proper bath ratio and the temperature. Continuous degassing is also done here after the depending upon the raw material, because softwood or the bamboo they require less cooking time. In case of the hardwood, that requires longer cooking time. So, depending upon that we are maintaining a temperature 170 to 175 degrees, pressure 7 to 8 kg, around 7.5 kg, and after that your cooking is completed, it is blown in the digester, and after the blowing it is going for the removal of the your rejects, fine knots, and then it is going to the 3-4 stage washing, and after the washed pulp that we are getting, after the washed pulp that is going to the screening section, board tab or the scenting cleaner, all those things that we are using there for removal of the fine dirts that may adhere even after, because here after the chipping where it is going to cyclone also, but some of the silica that may be still there, and so that has to be removed before it is going to the paper making. So, after the 4 stage scenting cleaner, so you see that the washing where dilution is there, in during the bleaching dilution is there. So, 4 stage scenting cleaning that you are having, scenting cleaner is nothing but the smaller diameter cyclones where we are removing the sand at the in the bottom and the accepted pulp with the your silica free that is going to the for further processing, it may be the kraft pulp or the bleaching. So, dewatering, storage, then the bleaching, and after bleaching it is going to stock preparation, and after stock preparation again there also we are having the scientific cleaner just to remove the traces of the silica and other material that may be there, and then finally it is going to paper section. This is the actually the bleaching sequence in the kraft pulping, that is sorry, this is the pulping. So, kraft pulping and bleaching that has been added, the chlorine dioxide bleaching that is there. Here actually the consistency in the bleaching towers also that is changing. In case of the chlorine, earlier it used to be 3% consistency, in the hypochlorite stage that is around is can 8 to 10%. So, consistency is also, because in each stage the pulp which we are getting after bleaching that is going for the washing. So, here we are having the washers also. So, in each stage of the bleaching we are having the washers. These are the some of the different type of the diesters that we are using in the so as I told you, we are having the batch diester, we are having the continuous diester where the continuous cooking, washing and the final discharge of the pulp is there. Rotary diester, this is the spherical shape. So, that we are using. Even some of the continuous pulping for the agriculture residue, that Pandya diester, continuous diester. In some of the mills that Sesa people mill, they are also using the bagasse as a raw material. So, they are using the, so some of the mills which are using the bagasse, they have also gone for the continuous, but this is the batch diester. This is about the pulping of the straw, requires mild cooking because these are the in case of this agro more silica is there and more soft is there. So, if you compare the cooking time, that is less in case of the agro based raw material. This is the various stages here: cutting, cooking and the blowing, washing, bleaching, recovery of the chemicals. Earlier it was not there, but in case of the bagasse base they are having the recovery, but agro base now that is mandatory and people have gone for the now the recovery of the chemicals in the agro base. Or some of the mills what they have done, they have shifted from the agro base to the waste paper based mill. This is the cooking condition. Here if you see the cooking condition, alkali as NaOH, here no sodium sulphide is used in case of the pulping of the wheat straw, the grass. Normally it is the alkalic NaOH that we are using 8 to 10%, temperature is less, cooking time is less if we compare with the hardwood or the bamboo. So, these are the some of the problems in utilization of the, although we are, as I told you earlier also while discussing the raw material in the module 1, huge amount of the biomass is available, but how to utilize this biomass? These are the some of the problem with reference to paper and industry we are facing in the utilization of the agriculture residue, and that problem that may be in other cases also. Higher percentage of silica problem in washing due to slow drainage, because you see the drainage of the water while washing, that is poor in case of the agro based raw material. So, more dilution that will be required for full washing of the pulp. So, that is one of the disadvantage in case of the agro base. So, the washing is not proper in the brown stock washer. Higher percentage of silica, we cannot go up to the 30-35% in the conventional evaporator, and so the our requirement or the efficiency of the recovery furnace that will go down, and even you cannot achieve that target of the 60-70% which you are getting in case of the hardwood or the bamboo or the softwood. Longer wire path due to the poor drainage, same, because the drainage what we are doing, as I told you earlier also, that we are adding water at 10 different places in the paper making. So, the finally the pulp after beating stock from the stock preparation, that is going at 1%, around 1% to the head box of the paper. So, 99% of the water that has to be removed. So, first portion is the wire part. So, wire part the drainage, so longer wire part that will be required for drainage, because before shifting to the press the water has to be removed, so that the the paper is made and that paper that can be transferred. So, lower strength of the pulp that is there in case of the agriculture is the low bulk density. Another problem is the seasonal availability. You cannot depend upon the bagasse totally or the wheat stuff, because seasonally they are available. So, this is the another problem that has been the higher pollution load. This is the one of the area where the scope is there, because 10% of the bagasse is still that is surplus that can be used for the. So, now let us discuss about the bagasse pulping, because the bagasse 60% fiber, 30% pith, 60% of the good quality fiber. So, that 30% pith that is not desirable, and 10% of the water. 0.25 ton of the bagasse per ton of the sugar cane that is produced, and the 3 tons of the bagasse per ton of the unbleached pulp, that will be requirement. Bagasse with 50% moisture and about 2 to 2.5% sucrose and the water soluble material. This is about the some of the characteristic of the bagasse, but bagasse in comparison to rice star and wheat star, it is considered much better. And so, the scope is there for integration of the sugar mill with the paper. Already we have some of the mills, smaller paper mills where they are using the bagasse producing the sugar mill. In the bagasse, as I told you, the removal of the pith, that is important. So, that is the de-pithing, and then the varial, here we are using the dry de-pithing or the wet de-pithing or the combined de-pithing, that may be there depending upon the process condition. Pulping, washing, screening, cooking of the bagasse can be done, as I told you, it can be in the batch or the continuous. This is the typical. Here also normally it is the NaOH that we are using 10 to 20%, slightly higher temperature, and the bleaching requirement 3 stage brown star washing is done, which is followed by screening and sanding clean. But in case of the bagasse, slightly better property of the pulp is there in comparison to wheat star. This is the typical flow diagram for pulping of the agro based raw material. That is raw material, star, then star cutter, star duster. After the star dusting, it is going to the diester. Sometime I told you that the, and during discussing the raw material, we are also using the Hessian or the hosiery cuttings in the for cooking. After the cooking, it is being added along with the pulp for making the especially the board paper. So, bagasse after de-pithing, that will go to the diester, spherical diester, blow tank, then the knotters, and then it is retained effluent, but now it is the mandatory to go for the recovery. So, 3 to 4 stage washers are there, sanding cleaner, and the bleaching section. Finally, it will go depending upon the requirement of the bleach or the craft paper. Mechanical pulping, you see the mechanical pulping has significant importance in the paper making because of the high yield and its requirement in the newsprint, because as I told you, the major lion's share about 70% is the mechanical. Why it is needed? Because you see there are two advantages. One advantage, the yield is higher, cost of the paper newsprint, because that is also controlled, and so you cannot increase the cost of the paper like oil and other things, and so you will have to be very particular about the cost of the paper. And so the requirement, another requirement, because while discussing the newsprint we will be discussing why the mechanical pulp is preferred, because that will helping in the, because the requirement in case of the newsprint and requirement in case of the writing paper, that is different. This is the ground root stone pulping that was earlier, and many of the, just like the Nepal paper mill, they are still using the ground stone. One section is there. So, for making, but in case of the Hindustan paper Kerala, they are having the thermomechanical pulping. So, primary action in the grinding zone involve the compression and release of the wood as the grit projecting from the pulp stone. Here we are using the pulp stone, surface passes of the underneath of the wood. And so the pulp stone manufacturer supply their basic abrasive silicon carbide. These are the some of the because special type of the pulp stone that we are using. Purpose of the grinding is to defile the fiber, to separate the fiber from the wood with a minimum change to the fibers length, and at the same time retaining the yield of the pulp. This is the mechanical pulping process in case of the stone ground grinder, debarked wood that we are using, coarse screen, coarse to reject, and then fine screen, senti cleaning. So, all these screening part and senti cleaning, dewatering, unbleached pulp, and then final bleaching, and that is bleaching. Here we are using the not the conventional bleaching sequence, but the hydrogen peroxide bleaching or the sodium sulphide bleaching that we are using. So, the requirement of bleach that is also less in case of the bagasse pulp or the staff pulp. And this is the or the mechanical pulp also, because the here our measures here is the mechanical and 30% we are. So, whatever the brightness that is giving, but now the you see the changes in the quality of the paper, that is also newsprint is also there. So, requirement that may be different, slightly more bleaching that is required in case of the newsprint, where earlier the brightness requirement that was less. So, this is the process how the bleaching, the cleaning and the temperature regulating pulp stone that we are using, and the these are the smaller wood logs that is going to the your stone ground pulping. Refiner mechanical pulp, this is another development that has taken place, involves the mechanical reduction of the chips in a precious double rotating disc refiner, what we called it, the with use of 2 refiners in series, stronger pulp than the stone ground pulping that is there. The quality of the paper is also better in the, if you are having the disc refiner. This involves about the disc reformer, slightly let us go in detail. This involves the mechanical reduction of the chips in the double rotating disc with the use of the 2 refiners in series, and give the pulp with a much stronger. Although softwood does not need any treatment, but hardwood, if you are using the hardwood, so chemical treatment, slightly pre-treatment with the soaking with the caustic that we are doing, just to improve the separation of the fiber from the chips. So, that is helping, and so the even the damage during the further refining or the separation, that is less because of the softening. Fiberizing of the chips was earlier done by the rod mill. The chips were fed in the rotating drum at the one end. The this is the another type of the refiner that was being used. The variables in the refining are the speed of the rotation, discs, interdistance, load, temperature, and the consistency. This is the refiner mechanical pulping. Instead of the disc refiner, we are also mechanical refiner, because that is also being used in case of the beating during the stock preparation. But here normally we are having the disc refiner in case of the, so that is the refiner mechanical pulp that. Again the thermomechanical pulp, here the short steaming period. Why the thermo, not mechanical but thermo, because the short steaming that we are doing before it is going to the final refining, and in the first stage we are doing the steaming, and then because by steaming the chips are getting softened, and then the total energy consumption in case of the disc refiner, that is less, and the requirement of the and the quality of the pulp is also good. This is about the another condition, that is the temperature, why the pre-steaming that we are doing. These are the some of the again sometimes, as I told you, we are also adding the alkali. So, if you are adding the alkali, that is helping this failing of the chips, and so better separation that is taking place, higher strength that we are getting. So, these are the some of the advantages if you are going for the pre-treatment or the pre-steaming of the chips that we are doing. This is the actually why we are going for the thermomechanical pulping, because as I told you, the in case of the newsprint requirement is also very high, and just to have the better yield, better utilization should be there of the raw material. So, the complete utilization of the tree, greater flexibility of the raw material, number of the very little consumption of the chemicals is there in compared to the kraft pulping or the bleach pulping. At the same time we are having the higher yield. Advantage of the again the mechanical pulp with the good bonding properties and high content of the long fibers, improve the strength characteristic, improve paper machine runnability, higher production, the lower cost, lower size content and simplified cleaning, good bulk, improved quality and printability. That is the some of the advantage of the thermomechanical pulp. Another advantage, minimum labor cost, high yield, because the stone ground pulp that was using high energy consumption. So, minimum labor, high yield and high strength resulting in either reduced or limited costly chemical pulp, improved quality and lower cost, more and better utilization of the available raw materials, no air atmospheric pollution, little water pollution, because in case of the stone ground we are also adding during the pulping water, and so the water has to be removed and reduce the environmental damage. Adaptability to the easier control, automatic and this computer control, now the new breed of the disc refiners which are having. Chemi thermomechanical, already we have added some slight mild treatment with the sodium hydroxide or sodium sulphide that we are doing. So, that is helping in the separation. This is the bleaching, as I told you, we are for bleaching of the mechanical pulp, we are using the hydrosulphide and the hydrogen peroxide. This is the peroxide and these are the very commonly used in case of the mechanical. Although this is peroxide, hydrogen peroxide, that is also being used for the in the kraft bleaching process also. Newsprint, let us discuss because in brief about the newsprint manufacture. In the newsprint manufacture, the major that is playing an important role in the information, culture and economic growth, and in the morning if you are not getting paper, newspaper, you are not comfortable. So, lot of the information for the cultural, social development you use the, and that is the reason why the importance. You see one very interesting figure I will give. The one New York's time, they are consuming raw material equivalent to one Ohio state, the total forest. So, number of pages you see if you go to the any metropolitan city, that is very high, and so this is the reason why the newsprint industry, that is also one of the very important sector of the paper industry. And here we are using the 70% of the mechanical from the eucalyptus and the 30% chemical from this is hardwood. These are the raw material. Bagasse is also, some of the mills they are using the bagasse also for making the newsprint. These are the process we are using. Eucalyptus wood is also that being used. Impregnated chips, that is going to the thermomechanical pulping. These are the some of the why we need the mechanical pulp in case of the, you see the paper. If you see the a lot of the painting that is involved, and so the two sidedness should not be there, because if you are painting on this side, then ink should not come on this side, other side. So that is very important in case of the manufacture of the. So that is the helping in the ground wood pulp, or if you are using the mechanical pulp, because this is more fine. So it is helping in the. So these are the some of the advantages. Higher bulk improves the calendering action, improve the formation, decrease four-sidedness, better and improved opacity, better ink absorbability, absence of print through, that is very important in case of the new improved surface. This is the newsprint manufacture where we are using wood, that is going to the both the mechanical and the chemical. It may be sequence now, it is the not the CE but CEHH, or it may be the DEH with the chlorine dioxide, or it may be oxygen delignification also. So, the after the, because rest of the processes, pulping, bleaching, centric cleaning, washing, all things that is similar. So, finally, it is going to the stock preparation and then the paper making. Quality, these are the some of the requirement in case of the runnability, good printability, minimum two sideness, pulp formation should need following requirement, low freeness, because that is also very important, means the freeness measure the drainage of the water, especially good screening should be there, good pulp strength, uniform pulp quality, control bleach system, mechanical pulp has to be good weight and weight and strength and good bonding during the paper making. So, these are the some of the requirements. Bagasse is made for the 50% bagasse having good printing quality. So, already we have discussed about the bagasse, DP thing, all those things, because in some of the mills they are using the bagasse for making of the newsprint. The other condition, pulping or the processing of the, already we have discussed about the bagasse pulping. This is the newsprint furnace that we are using, about the 25 to 30% the kraft pulp, 70 to 75% the mechanical pulp, and these are the raw material. Advantage already we have discussed. Sulphide pulping, just to go in brief about this sulphide pulping, because although it is not being used now in any mill in India, but earlier if you see the historical development, that was the sulphide pulping came first. After that, looking to the problem what was inherent in case of sulphide pulping, we went for the, because the quality of the paper that was better in case of the kraft pulping. So, the plus pollution from point of view. So, this was the problem in case of the sulphide pulping, and so we are not using any where the sulphide pulping, but let us discuss in brief about the bisulphate that we are using. These are the some of the reaction, because requirement of the SO2 is there in case of the sulphide pulping, and so the generation of SO2. So, a lot of the environmental problems are involved in case of the SO2 generation. So, this was the reason here actually the bases that may be magnesium, sodium or the ammonium base, whatever the base that may be magnesium sulphide, sodium sulphide or the ammonium sulphide, any type of the pulping liquor that can be used. This is the rate of pulping if you are having the ammonia, magnesium or the sodium, these are the cooking condition, and then these are the some of the terms that very commonly used in case of the sulphide pulping: total sulfur dioxide, free sulfur dioxide and combined SO2. So, these are the terms as in case of the kraft pulping, here some terms we are using here, the total sulfur dioxide, that is important, and so the that can be determined by the hydrometric titration, or the free SO2 is the actual free SO2 plus half of the SO2 in the bisulfite of the, it is also called the available SO2, because whatever the SO2 that we are, just like there we are using two terms, active alkali and total titrable alkali. So, this is the about the, in brief about the sulphide pulping. So, this was the actually about the pulping and the bleaching, what are the various development that has taken place in pulping, how, what are the problem faced in case of the pulping of the agriculture residue and the hardwood, and the now actually the, because as you see the, you are using chemicals for cooking. So, recovery of the chemicals from the black liquor which is separated during pulping process, that is very important, and so the whole efficiency economy of the plant, that will depend upon the total recovery of the chemicals, and now the people are work have gone for the 95 plus recovery of the chemicals which are using, because that has to be recycled, otherwise you cannot survive. And so, the next lecture of this module 3, lecture 3, that will be on the recovery of the chemicals, because if you are having the hardwood bamboo, the problems are different. In case of the softwood agro base raw material, the problems are different. So, we will be discussing about the what are the various stages involved in the recovery of the chemicals from the whether the cloud pulping or the soda pulping.